We are Broke Dude Podcast. I'm Jed.
Chris.
Jake. There you go. You yelled it that time. And this is episode 157, ladies and gentlemen.
157?
157.
Too bad it's not 187.
187.
We could just pretend it is.
Okay.
We'll just
Episode
skip
187.
ahead. Yeah, we'll skip ahead 30 episodes. Fuck it.
The reason that's funny is because we have the Sunflower Coalition. You guys might want to get a tougher name.
That's all right.
Just doesn't really strike fear into the heart of cops, you know. But we got Santiago and his masked bandits.
Oh yeah, you know all the homegrown
Santiago, Seth, and Robert.
Good thing you remembered the names. I didn't.
Yeah.
I didn't get their names. I came late, so
That's not a problem.
I'm writing them down now so I can remember them.
There were, one of our other members actually pulled up and then was immediately called into work. So
Oh, that's
that was,
good.
That was really cute.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Works are cool. So, the Sunflower Coalition, what is it?
Sunflower Coalition is essentially a group of people just in Selena who were just super outraged at the fact that Selena was taking so long at getting anything done in response to the murder of George Floyd. So we kind of took it upon ourselves to, I guess, voice our frustration and try to get something pulled through. I guess force the hand of the city commission to actually do something besides give out empty platitudes, which they didn't even do. You know, after like 2 or 3 weeks, they still hadn't even made a statement in response. Mm-hmm. It was really depressing, and we were very mad.
Yeah, it sounds like Selena City Commission.
Yeah.
Like we just live in a hole in the middle of the U.S. or something.
Yeah.
Selena is a black hole. It truly is.
So you guys started shortly after George Floyd. Well, not shortly after, but because of George Floyd, I guess.
Essentially, yeah. It was after the first march that was organized by Miranda Bachman. I reached out to a couple of people that I knew and got in contact with some other people who are long time just people who have been advocating for things around town, and started networking with people, you know, from school and just people around town. And now we're at about like 40 plus members, right?
Wow, nice.
With like 27 continually active members or something like that. So
And you guys meet?
yeah, I mean, like, well, we used to meet up until Corona got really, really bad, and so now we're just, you know, we're Discord's really helping us out there. So.
Yeah, that's pretty handy. And you guys are mostly high schoolers? You guys started out as
we started out as mostly high schoolers. Now we've got everywhere from the range of like, I think our youngest members are like 14, 15. The oldest are somewhere in the 50s.
Wow.
And I think like the median is probably like 23, 25 years of age.
So it's a lot of younger people.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's awesome to see.
Mm-hmm.
What are you guys doing for like server invites as far as like finding how to get invited to the server, to the Discord?
Usually it's just like like you got to know someone.
Just networking?
Yeah. So like, whenever we find someone that we, you know, that seems... Yeah, it's a pyramid scheme. Yeah.
You tell 10 friends, and then they tell 10 friends. Eventually you get police reform. That's how it works.
It's only a matter of time, you know.
It's the most wholesome pyramid scheme. There it is. There's the undercurrent.
The only essential oil I need is WD-40. I don't know what you're talking about.
Clever. So I'm guessing you're going to get a lot of pushback around here for being so young. You're going to get a lot of well, what do you guys know? You're still in high school, or you're just high schoolers, blah, 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 shit like that. Because people don't understand that just because you're young, it doesn't mean you don't understand the world around you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if anything, it seems that the majority of the young people have taken the time to actually understand the world around them.
Yeah.
You know, you'll hear people tell you things like, oh, systemic racism doesn't exist. There is no oppression in Salina, Kansas. And you're like, well, actually, have you taken a look at any of the statistics or just anything at all?
Well, I haven't seen it in my life, so it's not real.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, dude. That's like object. Yeah, that's object permanence you learn when you're a fucking toddler, you know? Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. It's gone forever.
That was one of the things, too, that happened at the beginning of the public forum we had recently. Like, the first people that came out to speak were, like, ex-sheriffs, ex-police officers. Then there was that one dude from the hospital that was like, "Oh, APCs are really great," and I was like, "Why?" I mean, like, cool, but like, why? And I was like, these are all like older white people that are probably doing probably higher up on like the income bracket. Mm-hmm. So obviously they would have no negative experiences with the police.
Yeah.
It's like,
that's weird.
Yeah.
Because usually police patrol really rich neighborhoods.
I mean, I don't
exclusively.
Like almost exclusively.
Yeah, that's where all the crime is.
All of it.
Oh yeah, of course. Like
I've never seen a cop in a low income neighborhood.
No.
Never.
not once. Yeah.
They trust those people.
Marymount, like their police are crawling all over that area.
Like it's actually they probably might be because of that apartment. They're across
Yeah,
the quick shop.
where all the poor people are. That one little block of apartments.
amongst $100 million houses or whatever the fuck it is.
Yeah. Oddly enough, though, we have yet to encounter a lot of people that have struck us down simply for our age. I mean, I guess that's probably because just the people we're running into, at the commission meetings and stuff, they see us speak and they're like, "Oh, you guys are relatively smart. That's cool."
Yeah.
You can use words.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
That's a high bar.
You get that slap in the face. Oh, you're pretty articulate.
You're one of the smart ones.
Yeah.
It's like a backhanded compliment. You're
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
thanks.
I
I've
see what
gotten
you're
a few of
doing
those in
there.
my life.
Appreciate it,
I've gotten quite a few of those. So, like on a personal note, I grew up lower middle class. I think single parent. She worked at Tony's all the time, but personally, I haven't experienced a whole lot of racism around Selena. But I also don't. I'm not out there like that. I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there's been a occasion times when I worked at the bowling alley that I got called the N-word one time.
Oh, that's cute.
And that was pretty cool. I was like, "Hey, man, I'm glad you called me that.
Finally.
Now I can go about my day even better than it already was without your fucking drunk ass." But yeah, so like for somebody like me who doesn't necessarily see all the racist stuff that's happening, what about Selena is racist?
Well, see, I come a little bit, I think, from your position in some ways. I would be what most people would call like the exemplary immigrant, like the success story in America.
Yeah, one of the good ones.
My father and mother and I moved to the United States when I was like about a year old, and we moved to California first. This was like, my father went into the embassy in Peru on 9/11, which is, luck. They gave him his visa. He came through. He got his education in college, and he came to Salina. And now we live in like a nice like white suburb. Like we're like the one Hispanic family on the white suburb.
Yeah.
A nice house. We finished paying it off, and so it's like that's what we're essentially the story that everyone uses. Like, oh, you can be successful if
American
you try
dream.
really hard.
Yeah.
And it's stupid and bad. It's really dumb. It's really dumb.
Absolutely.
But my father is a pastor actually. And a large population of our church is also Hispanic, and a good number of them are undocumented. And I've had to personally sit in on a couple court sessions where some of the people that we knew got deported. And talking with those people, like they experience that kind of stuff all the time. Like the other day, one of our churchgoers got pulled over for going 30 in a school zone, but there's no school. And she was like, "There's no school," and the cop was like, "Rules are rules," and they sent her to court, and obviously she didn't have the money to appeal, and it's stupid and dumb.
Yeah.
And she wasn't able to go to the public forum. One, because she doesn't speak English, and two, she was scared that because she's undocumented that she'd get a target on her back.
Yeah.
Stories like that just permeate. Lower income, especially people of color.
Mm-hmm.
And it's those kind of stories that we don't get to hear a lot from. Like if you we mentioned that at the last meeting, at the public forum, basically everyone there was white. There was some representation of the black community there, but there was like no Hispanic people. Mm-hmm. And Hispanic people make up like 12.5% of the Salina population.
Yeah.
So they make up more than the black.
Yeah, actually, I
think black like 8%.
3% actually.
Wow,
Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
overselling.
I think that you haven't experienced it because there's not as much racism towards black people in Salina. It's mostly
sense.
towards Hispanics.
Yeah. Although,
which not to say it hasn't happened or doesn't happen. I'm sure it happens to fucking everybody, but it's
Not
more.
white
I think
people.
it's more outwards towards Hispanics in Salina.
although I know. Okay, some people like really hit us on this post, but we just took the stats off the population in Selena County Jail, and like the population in Selena County Jail is 20% black.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were like, okay, well, like Selena County Jail only holds like 200 people. It's like, one, it's overpopulated, but two, like that's not the point. If we were really, if things were being represented fairly, there would only be like a 3% representation of the black population in that jail. Instead, they're sevenfold more represented in jail than in the population.
I mean, and that trend like permeates throughout America.
Yeah.
I think it's like 20% of our prison population is African American.
Yeah.
But only, maybe that's where the 13% comes from, but only like 8 or 13% of America is black.
Yeah, which...
Is it 13?
Yeah.
Okay.
According to Seth, it is 13. But yeah.
I trust the white guy.
And,
Yeah.
I got you. I did that one time.
Essentially. But yeah, no, like... Oh no, yeah, and people are always like, well, it's not in Selena, and it's like, well, yeah, it definitely is in Selena. If anything, Selena is doing one of the best jobs of covering everything up.
Oh yeah, it's closed doors.
It is really closed doors, and
Yeah.
it's really spooky because like it was in week. We keep track of our progress in weeks because all the Monday meetings represent a new chapter in the information that we gather and kind of the approaches that we've taken. Between week 2 and 3. We essentially found out a huge amount of dirt just on like what's going on in Selena that people don't talk about, and that was
From the meetings.
not from the meetings, but from like from the meetings, but also from like former commissioners, people who have worked in Selena for a long time. We got into a long conversation about the Chamber of Commerce.
I was just about to ask, have you guys done any investigating on them?
Oh, the Chamber of Commerce.
That's a whole crooked like realm above.
Anyone
Selena.
got a comment on the Chamber of Commerce?
Are we able to make comments on the Chamber of
Like, legally? I don't know. Like, we're not going to tell
I
anybody.
mean, fuck the Chamber of Commerce.
Here,
but I
I'm
don't know
kind of
anything
going
about
around
it.
now.
Let's find out.
So I'm gonna double back on the thing that you said about racism in Selena, and one of the things that a lot of people say is that the police aren't very violent in Selena, but that's because a lot of the people who are typically targeted by them can't make it to any of these fucking meetings. 'Cause
Yeah.
they're always at 4 p.m. where everyone's at work, and
On Monday when nobody
Yeah,
wants
on
to fucking
Monday.
do anything.
and a lot of the time, a lot of people that go up and are support of it are, and this was really big on the last meeting where a bunch of golf course people went up there and started not praising the police, but were like trying to take away from it,
Yeah.
which is disgusting.
Yeah.
It's almost $1 million every single year since 2018, as opposed to all of downtown, which only gets $350,000 every year. The budget.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah, this year it was 900. This year it was $900,000 for the golf course. But I guess to hit on the Chamber of Commerce, talk about the Chamber of Commerce thing. Correct me if I'm wrong throughout this word, because it's very nuanced. It's like very complex. But originally the Chamber of Commerce. So about the Chamber of Commerce, it's like a club of just business members. So for you to be a part of the Chamber of Commerce, you have to like pay fees for like the amount of employees that you have. So like if you have a bigger company, you have to pay more, but that means that you have more lobbying power within the commerce itself. So the city of Selena had a contract with the Chamber of Commerce where the city of Selena would like give the commerce like money. Yeah, economic development. And they would like give them money for them to like do that, whatever that means. And in 2014, the mayor at the time, John Blanchard, fired the Chamber of Commerce because they weren't doing their job. They were pocketing the money. And then so what we've seen throughout Selena is that the Chamber of Commerce will make donations to commission members' campaigns, such as Carl Ryan was one of them, correct?
Yeah, sounds about right.
About $12,000 was given to Carl Ryan from the Chamber of Commerce for his campaign. And so what we see with these commission members that take this donation money is that their policies will heavily reflect what the Chamber of Commerce wants.
Shocker.
So what we see, is that these commission members serve about like 2 years, and then so what you can have happen is that if these commission members actually want to like change something within Selena, what will happen is that the city manager, right now Mike Scragg, will wait them out for the 2 years, get them out, and then the Chamber of Commerce will fund someone's campaign like Carl Ryan so they can get in the commission, and then they can start supporting the Chamber of Commerce. And this is something that we see historically, and it's still going on. So even though we still don't have a contract with them, they are heavily embedded within the politics, especially with commission members. And y'all can talk about the whole like Mike Scragg and his like predecessor and his predecessor's predecessor, and how that goes down. I don't remember names, but was
Jason
the deputy
Gage is
sheriff,
What?
like the deputy sheriff, and then they had someone.
the deputy sheriff, the deputy manager.
There you go, the deputy manager. Like you can talk about it because I don't remember names, but it's.
Well, I feel like when we had the ex-mayors on, they were talking about that shit.
That
'cause
exact thing, yeah.
That was part of the whole what's the sports thing downtown?
The field house.
The field house. Yeah, like how they spent like triple on the parking lot across the street than they actually needed to build it. So, yeah, we've been hearing those stories for a long time about how fucked up that is.
That
Yeah,
and
the Chamber of Commerce is just a libertarian's wet dream, just being like, oh, no government, just having businesses run everything. Perfect.
Yeah.
One of the other things that's really fucked up is that our mayor is involved with the banks, which control most of the farming land within Saline County and most of the larger property homes. Which
You said
are
our mayor?
Yeah,
Okay.
the mayor. He actually brought it up at one of the meetings to try and distract from our criticisms of something.
He's a banker.
Yeah, he was like, when I first got involved with banks, and that was really concerning. I was the only one that picked it up because these guys were getting Dairy Queen.
Yeah, no,
Fucking slackers. We weren't even there, but you guys were slacking.
I mean, yeah, we went back to cross-reference it in the videos of that, you know, because the SMC puts out. But yeah, no, it's fucking crazy. Because Selena is like a perfect little like case study of capitalism and like the ways that business owners and the capitalists can control essentially everything in a town without necessarily having to have specific political power. They can use the influence of money, the fact that, you know, making donations, not necessarily even in the name of the Chamber of Commerce, but from the business owners who know people in the, you know, so it's like not necessarily specifically the Chamber of Commerce, but all the people who are in the Chamber of Commerce are moving money in things that interest them. And obviously
And-
they can because
and they're-
they have the money.
Yeah, and they're keeping businesses that shouldn't be afloat still afloat
Yeah.
because it's a stature of the city or something. Even though they may not be making profit, they'll bail these companies out and not look after the small business owner.
And we have reason to believe
Like
too.
Dick's.
Yeah.
How's Dick's open?
How is Dick's open?
That shit was not busy before Rona.
God, Jesus Christ.
Black Friday, man.
Yeah.
That keeps all businesses open ever.
But
African American Friday.
oh,
sir.
right. My bad.
there's reason to believe too, right?
Culturally insensitive.
Y'all know the Selena Police Excellence Fund, right?
No.
Oh, what?
Let's hear about this.
Let me open my email real quick. Oh, you guys are in for a
fancy.
treat. So, the Selena.
Yo, bars, son.
Okay,
You ready?
You guys are yeah.
Drop the beat.
You guys are in debate, aren't you?
A good number of us, yeah.
Yep. I was gonna say. I could tell. I could tell right away.
The way you got so excited to give new information. is
No,
just-
it's just the research, man.
Yeah,
Like, I
no,
remember
we
being
spent the
there.
last 3 nights. A couple of us have been working the night shift, quote unquote, up until 5 a.m. writing because we accidentally got ourselves into a position where we're supposed to present policy proposals
you
by the
accidentally,
15th.
you said?
We didn't have anything written. But we were planning on writing them. And then Luke came up and he was like, oh, we have something to show you. And they were like, okay, we're going to put you on the agenda for the 20th. And we want to see the policy proposals by the 15th so we can look over them. And we were like, oh, we have 8 days.
Oh, shit.
And we actually cranked that shit out in only 3. So we're going to have 5 days of revisions, which is really nice because we got some people who are like working on their masters in policy and, you know, people who like have, you know, that like, we have contacts with like lawyers and stuff to just look over because we're not going to write the specific wording of an ordinance. That's the city's job. We're not getting paid for this shit. We're going to give you a skeleton and an outline of what values we think that we should look at for the future citizens advisory board. And like, we also are standing on a platform of banning all militarization and usage of 1033, which they're probably going to try to water down, which we're, obviously. So we're going to have to prepare.
Guaranteed they're going to.
So we're
try
going to have to
and water
prepare
it down.
pretty strong defenses on that. Yeah, but okay, the Selena Police Excellence Fund.
Yeah.
Make sure to note, Selena Police Excellence Fund is a private organization that collects donations that funnels them into the police department. So the police department is getting private funding, and that money is coming from the richest people in town, probably people who are in the Chamber of Commerce. One of the board members, Joel Weimer holds these parties at his ranch. And you have to pay like $2,500 to get in, and like they gather donations and stuff. So it's like only rich people going. Joel Weimer, who's also on the board of the Police Excellence Fund, is also on the Police Advisory Board. But yeah, so they're giving private money, and apparently in the past they used to get stickers on their. They would put on their cars, be like, "I donate to the police," which like wink, wink means that the police probably won't pull you over because they're making money off you know. And I'm assuming they still don't. But yeah, the police is getting private funding,
That's
which is
the little
really
blue
scary.
line, right?
And
Yeah.
we were like, so on the second week, I think it was the second week of us coming out, we were like, yo, it's kind of weird that you guys are getting private funding. We would like to know how much money you're making and what it's going to. And then we repeated that on the third week. And then the fourth week was the public forum. And we're coming up on the fifth week. But we've been repeatedly asking them to give us numbers. At the barbecue that Miranda Bachman hosted, I asked Sean Morton about it, which is our deputy police chief. And he's like, oh, I can't tell you about that. You got to ask Nelson. And I asked Nelson, and Nelson was like, oh, well, you know, he's like, I can't give out names of people who donated. And I was like, I didn't ask. I just want to know where it's going to. He's like, well, you know, we're not using it for anything suspicious. And I was like, you're getting off.
Well, now you're looking suspicious.
Yeah, no, and it's funny. It's really funny.
We're not buying hookers and coke with it. I swear.
We know one thing that they bought, and it's really fucking funny. I'm gonna have to show you in a second. No, you guys aren't ready. You guys are not ready. But then he was like, oh, shoot me an email and I'll let you know. And I was like, okay, I'll shoot him an email. But then he tapped me on the back, and one of the people that was sitting next to me was like, remember? And he did finger guns. He's like, we're not the enemy, as he was walking backwards. I kid you not.
That is what the enemy says.
It's so funny. It's so okay. So
I've never seen a
fucking
villain.
comic book villain.
Hey, I'm not the bad guy.
But yeah, no. So let me show you this. I emailed. Oh no! I got the because I need to show you also what Brad Nelson said to me. But
Is that-
we'll pull that? No, we got to pull
Is
that
that
up later.
information not part of the Freedom of Information Act?
Apparently not, because it's a private organization. But it's
But
weird.
it's police funded.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So they're gonna hide. I mean, obviously they're gonna hide behind the wall of like, we're not a public organization, and I'll show you that in the emails here in a second. But so then we're like, okay, if they can't tell us, then we're gonna have to ask the police department, release how much money you're actually getting, because the city budget is saying that $9 million of the $10.1 million budget you have is all going to salaries. So where's the money for your equipment, and how much money you're actually making? Because if you're already using up a fourth of Salina city budget and you're still getting more funding, like. So here, let me find. I emailed Mr.
$9 million.
Not
ridiculous.
$10.1 million total goes to the Salina Police Department, and I'll pull up the
Every
graph.
year?
Every year, and it's been going up. Their budget's been going up every year since 2017.
That's across the nation too, though, right?
I mean, I just saw a report in New York about De Blasio cutting their funding by $8 billion or $9 billion.
Oh yeah, okay. So
Billion.
here's the email. I said, hey, this is Santiago. I was hoping to see if I could get the numbers on how much money is in the Excellence Fund and where those funds are going. Nelson replies, Santiago, I will pass forward this request to the board president. Sincerely, Brad L. Nelson. And then a little bit after, I think it was a day later, I get an email from the president, Byron Norris. And he says, Santiago, my name is Byron Norris, and I'm the president of the SPDEF, which is Salina Police Excellence Fund. Chief Nelson shared with me your email regarding the SPDEF. So that you are aware, the SPDEF, the Salina Police Department Excellence Fund, is not directly affiliated with the Salina Police Department or the city of Salina. This is a volunteer group of people with the mission to assist the Salina Police Department in funding training or support activities / needs for the police department. Our funds are raised by fundraising events or direct requisite donations. Our funding is purely private, and we do not share donor names or amounts raised privately. Once again, we didn't ask for names. I appreciate your interest and trust you understand our position. Sincerely. And so then I replied with a little bit of a snarky comment.
As you should.
I was like, it is hard to believe that the, in all caps, Salina Police Department Excellence Fund, which raises money specifically for the Salina Police Department, isn't directly affiliated with the Salina Police Department. I guess in that case, I also want to ask what your definition of what directly affiliated is. Once again, I never asked for donor names or their information. I just wanted to know how much money has been raised and where that money's going. I would think that is a reasonable question to ask since the PD is a public facility. I get a response a little bit later. Santiago, you are correct that the SPD is a public entity. However, the Excellence Fund is not a public entity. SPDEF is a volunteer group which raises money and donates it to the Salina Police Department. As I said in my original email, the donation is made for training or support activities / needs. The amount of money donated depends on the need and what success the volunteers have in raising money. So once again, they dodged the question.
Yeah. They gave you that fucking slow jerk answer.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
And so, okay, we found a Selena Journal article of one of the things they spent slightly over $12,000 on. We call it the torso Roomba, but it's used for target. Please look at it. They use it to train
$12,000?
$12,000
For that?
on the Moto Shot
It's
Elite.
a fucking broomstick on one of those scooter things you use in elementary school.
Look, just
Like literally.
if you go to our Facebook page, we have it uploaded there too. We made a post
You
about
can
it.
get one of those dummies for like $100 on Amazon.
You could get one just being a police officer.
So we know that's at least
hit one of
one
them up.
thing that the police department
$12,000
excellence fund is going
for that.
$12,000, a little over. I think.
Yo, we are doing the wrong thing.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you could pay rent with that much money.
I could pay.
Like kids are going starving, but we got to have our target practice, guys. We're really sorry.
Yeah.
The north side has one grocery store, save a lot, but $12K on torso room.
I mean,
I'm
that's
literally going to
pretty
look
generous.
up that on Amazon right now
That's
because I
pretty
guarantee you that
I think
thing.
is it Moto Shot Elite or Motor Shot Elite?
Even a full jujitsu dummy is a few $100. Like, come on.
I mean, like, is the remote controlled base worth like 11,000 of those dollars?
Like at least the wiring is like. Yeah.
No, it's made out of unobtainium. That's very hard to get.
Wakanda's not going to ship over some vibranium for the police.
Yeah. Especially for less than $12,000. Come on.
Oh yeah, I mean,
The fact that I didn't even notice.
Okay,
notice,
so
to be honest
the
with you.
torso part of that is $300.
yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So that leaves what $11,700 for the
And then
the remote.
Then our
the
tax
wheels.
dollars go to the guy controlling the remote, so it goes
Yeah.
back and forth for the guy to shoot it.
To miss it 30 times out of 35.
Which is really funny because Chief Nelson said at the public forum, he's like, "I'm surprised so many people are signing up that have never even shot a gun." Well, it's like, isn't that what your training is for? Like, do you want you want American Sniper to show up and be like, "I want to be in the Selena Police Department"?
Well, and that's the thing too, is like, because at my old job, I work with two dudes who, one of which was in the military, came back, joined the police force, and hated it. And so he left the Selena Police and went to work at my old
It
job.
seems to be a common sentiment, but I cannot elaborate on that just yet,
Yeah.
or at least not today.
Yeah.
That'll be a couple weeks later.
What branch of the military was you?
I'm not 100% sure. I want to say Army.
Okay.
I'm not 100%
Coast Guard
sure.
probably.
Usually,
A lot of Coast
the
Guards come.
police recruit towards Marines because during their training, Marines are conditioned to, like, I want to say not have empathy, but they're definitely trained with the motto, "We don't take prisoners." There's also another study that most police officers will not take people with an IQ above 120 because they're more likely to
Think.
to think.
Yeah.
And,
Jesus.
yeah.
Which we have no idea what the screening process is for the SBD.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, I mean, like, that's true nationally.
The public
But-
should know.
But yeah, no. And you know what's another thing? At the forum, which, like, everything's online. I mean, I know it's like a 2-hour forum, but, like, I mean, I think we have somewhere. I think one of our members made sure to go through and, like, make a note of, like, all the important, timestamps. So we'll probably get that uploaded soon. But one thing was, like, Reverend D. Williamston was like, "Do you have, like, psychological testing for your officers?" And he's like, "Yeah, I know, of course." And he never elaborated on it, so we don't know what kind of
It's
psychological
like
testing. Who it is.
flashcards.
Yeah.
You know what this is? Apple.
But
Good job.
one
Is this
thing
a
that we
bad guy?
did, one thing we did get specific numbers on, though, was, like, someone asked, like, after, like, a shooting or, like, a traumatic event, how long are officers out? And he was like, they asked first, like, do they get psychological testing after that? Do they get reevaluated? And he said yes. And so she was like, okay, how long are they out? And he was like, oh, just as long as the KBI wants them out. And we were like, okay, but, like, how long is that? And Nelson gave the answer of about 7 to 10 days. So after getting into a shooting, an officer will be out for 7 to 10 days. That's like a week.
Well,
So
have you ever shot anybody?
I've never shot anybody.
So how do you know how long it takes to recover from
Yeah.
shooting somebody?
I shoot people all the time and I go right back to work.
Yeah,
It's not that big a deal.
It's not. It's really not.
No,
it's
of
like
course.
a lunch break.
Yeah, no, truly. I mean, like,
a
honestly,
Tuesday.
everyone should try it. I think that's an important part of growing up.
Yeah.
It's the American thing to do.
Yeah.
That's
Sunflower Coalition is going to do work.
Yeah, next thing the Sunflower Coalition is going to do, we're going to take everyone out. We're just going to shoot each other.
That's perfect.
you got to.
That
You-
sounds nothing like a cult.
Yeah. You got to get yourself. It's like It's like popping your America cherry. You got to do it.
Just shoot yourself in the foot. Every American's been shot. You aren't a real American.
You've never
until
done a
you've been
desk
shot.
pop?
God, no, there's a lot of really concerning things that are going on, and it seems almost like they're being very disingenuous with their responses, right? Because up to we're on week 5 now, and I'm still waiting to hear what Brad Nelson or the city commission has, like what even their vague thoughts are for how to reform the police. Because all we keep getting, I mean, I guess that the commission has been sort of a few of them have been sort of sympathetic to the idea of change, and like at the last meeting, Davis and Hodges and
awesome.
France to some ways too. They were very much like, yeah, we need. I mean, like there's obviously a need for change. I really enjoyed the part where Davis was like, some things are easier than others, but we have to move forward at some point. I appreciated that. Yeah. I was a little concerned that when he was like, you might find that we need to raise the police budget. And I was like, actually, no,
that's the opposite.
That's actually bad. You're really close. You're almost there. You're almost there.
Just one little word.
But yeah, no,
just
like,
change one word and you got it.
I want to know what Nelson has in mind to change the police department, because so far I've only been getting information about what the status quo is.
Yeah, the runaround.
Well, okay. So the goofy thing here is that they have to like be very vague about it so that we tire ourselves out, because they know that if they do actually push change, then it'll be justification for the federal government to cut funding to a lot of our welfare programs, because most of Kansans and most of the Kansas government is propped up by welfare from the federal government, because most of our money is going towards bailing out big companies within Kansas. Cough, cough, the Koch bros. Like Kansas GDP alone is $150 billion, yet the average disposable income of a Kansan is about $758 dollars. Yeah, dollars. And not only will they cut it, they will use it as a pretext to then say, oh, well, we tried it here, it failed, therefore you're dumb. And so I think we're mindful of that and we realize it. So one of the first steps is getting them to admit that they have no fucking idea how they're going to do it.
Good luck.
So
yeah, getting them to admit that they're wrong that's going to be the biggest hurdle to get over.
And at some point, you just got to stop relying on them to admit that they're wrong, because they're not gonna. No one in a position of power wants to admit that they were wrong, especially not a police officer, because they're, traditionally they're the ones who uphold the law. They're supposed to be the bastion of justice. They're not going to be like, oh, maybe our justice was bad.
Yeah.
So
that's not.
I mean, that's why most of our focus has been just at the city commission, because that's where we feel we have the most influence. Like we're not going to be able to go up to Brad Nelson and be like, yo, we changed your policy.
Yeah.
Well, you can. It just won't do anything.
Yeah. I mean,
well, he'll get a nightstick to the teeth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, he's got a gun. There's some crack on him too.
There's this Onion article that I saw that was like, because of the police getting defunded, these poor cops are having to buy their own drugs to plant their suspects.
Fucking love the Onion.
That's good. That's good. So what outside of police reform, like specifically, like police changes specifically, do you guys want to see happen? Like, do you want to see... Let's start with income base. Like, what about poverty in Selena needs to be talked about?
Damn, they want the mic.
Yeah. Who's got it?
Okay, so I'm kind of not the economics guy of this, but our main focus right now is police reform, but I have been focused on poverty and the current situation in Kansas and the Plains in general. And what a lot of people don't realize is that the Plains are underfunded. A lot of our infrastructure was built in the 40s and it's now crumbling because we refuse to update them because we just don't have the funding for it.
Yep.
I told you guys the individual GDP of Kansas. Our school system is also incredibly underfunded. One of the things I want to see changed is stop bailing out a bunch of big companies and even smaller companies that don't deserve it. And I also want to see that our disposable income is brought up because 758 is way below the average American disposable income, which is around $3,000. I also want to see our rent go down, which is horrible in Kansas. I think the average rent is around $500 a month.
But how do you want this done?
Usually by like as I said, cutting tax breaks from large corporations, but also how am I gonna say this?
You want to tax rich people?
Yeah, I
huh?
want to tax rich people more.
Wow, you commie bastard.
Oh man, let me tell you about leftism. But no, for sure, like in Salina specifically, because I know we've had a lot of conversations specifically with Robert too, just about how fucked the plains in general are. But at least in Salina, like we have a couple specific demands, and once again, plug our Facebook. If you want to look it up.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's just the Sunflower Coalition on Facebook and Instagram. But one of the things that we're talking about is reallocating funding away from the police department towards institutions that are, like we used to have part of our sales tax go specifically to daycare, and that was cut. And now that money is used, and it's like some like pooled up and given to a business every year, which is stupid and dumb. That's like your basic trickle down Reagan economics.
Yeah, I love the hardcore right and capitalists don't see that for what it is. Like, no, that is socialism.
Yeah.
If you want bare bones capitalism, those companies need to die. They failed.
The free market has told them they died.
Yeah. Sorry. We got to take you out behind the shed, boy.
Time to take you out to pasture. But yeah, no, like, I mean, not even just from the police department either, right? Like, I mean, obviously the police department is a huge like sinkhole of money.
Yeah.
But obviously, the conversation we have to have there too is like, since all of their 90% of their city budget at least goes just to their salaries, then obviously like removing money means also lowering personnel, and they're going to come really hard because they're like, we're already having trouble recruiting and stuff. So it's like, how do we propose something that is going to look appealing when it also will probably involve job loss?
You know what's funny is I've been working for the city for 13 years now, and for the past 8, I want to say, they've had this CPI, continuous process improvement, going on, where we're supposed to find waste and cut that shit. I should find that thing, the graph, and see what the police department's cut, because if their budget's that tight, that 90% of it's going to budget, like they literally can't do anything.
Yeah.
Like they can't get gas.
Going
They
to
can't-
payroll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can't do anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man.
I mean, like a couple other things we noticed in just if you look at the city budget, even though the city budget is relatively vague when it gives stuff, just like where our money is going. I mean, like we always clown the golf course because every single year since 2018, it's been going up from like I think it's like $970,000, something like that. And I mean, like the golf course will pay for itself, but like it's like, why are you sinking so much money?
Well, and the thing that frustrates me too is when they put these things up to vote, like the River Walk, which I'm cool with, but it got voted down and they forced it through anyway. They put the Salina downtown revitalization up to vote, got voted down, and they forced it through anyway. The making the jail bigger got voted down. They're trying to force it through anyway.
That's another conversation we've been having with the group too, is like, what is going to be our stance on the expansion of the jail? Because like, yeah, the jail's current situation is relatively inhumane and really, really bad.
Oh yeah.
But if we expand the jail, there will be a further incentive to fill the jail. Like in specific talks with people, it's like, yeah, now we can start making money off of having prisoners. Like we'll bring people from other counties. Like that's so bad. Do you not understand how at face morally egregious that is?
Yeah.
And have to hire more people to control the jail.
Yeah. And it's like, what do you do about the people who are already in jail experiencing really inhumane conditions? But like, how do you prevent them from trying to make money off of, it's like one, you want to give them a better facility because like their facility is shit.
Oh yeah. But I was talking to this girl that was in there, and because they don't do the through the glass visits anymore, so you have to do it over a video call. And she was in essentially the bathroom, and there were beds on the floor in the bathroom where some prisoners were having to, or jailers, they're not prisoners, were having to sleep in the bathroom essentially.
That's cute. That's cute and fun.
It's fucking ridiculous
It's
what
like
they're
camp.
doing there. Yeah. It's like summer camp where you can get stabbed and people hide drugs in their vagina.
The shocking part to me, because I was looking up some incarceration shit last night, that the majority of people being held in jail haven't been convicted of anything.
Yeah.
Like it's because they can't post bail that they're still in there.
Our bail system is also super fucked.
Yeah.
I don't know a lot about the jail, like about the bail system specifically. But I know a couple of our other members, some of them who have been in the Selena County Jail. They have had very long conversations about how absolutely destroyed our bond system. You know, like
Well, yeah, because when you go to jail, you get a bond, obviously, set by the judge. If you can't pay it, you stay. If you can, you have to pay 10% of it, I believe. And if you miss jail, if you miss the court date or whatever, you have to either give them something that you put up for collateral, or they just take shit from you. So when you're poor, you don't have money anyway. You don't have shit to give them.
Yeah.
Like,
You become
even
a
if
debt
your bail's
prisoner.
like fucking $1,000, like you can't. The average bail in this country is $15,000. Yeah, you're right. Don't sell drugs to try to feed your kids. What?
It should also be noted that just standing in an area for a long time is also considered a crime.
Well, yeah, as it
Oh,
should
yeah.
be. Like, I
Yeah.
mean,
if I saw
you're
someone
sucking up
outside-
all the oxygen in that area.
Yeah.
Well, I have a personal story too. After the whole you can't park your cars on your front lawn thing passed the city ordinance, I was living at the time in essentially a duplex that had a connected driveway. So it was me and two other people were living in this house, and our neighbor was over here. So the best way it worked is if I kind of catacornered my truck into the driveway so that they could get around the neighbor's vehicle. So essentially, my front tire of my truck was touching the line of my grass. Wasn't parked. It was completely in the driveway. Wasn't in the cul-de-sac. Wasn't, none of my truck was outside of the driveway. But a part of my tire was touching it. A cop came over to talk to the neighbor about some bullshit. Threatened my neighbor that he was going to give me a ticket for my truck being parked on the grass. And I'm sitting there going, it's not on the fucking grass. It's touching the grass. It's in the driveway. So all you're doing is trying to collect revenue off of somebody.
Which, yeah, and specifically, like, I'm assuming it's someone who they believe won't be able to have the resources to, like, confront them on that. Right? Because if you're poor, they're like, oh, we got him.
Yeah, I can't fight that. I'm just going to pay the fucking ticket and move on with my life.
Like, on the first or second week that we came out to speak.
It's literally bully mentality.
Oh, yeah, of course. But on the first or second week that I came out to speak, I was talking about I've gotten a ticket here once. I was parked in a little road behind a bank, and it was like 3 a.m, and I was like 15 and sad, and I was like, I want to go outside, No, I had my driver's permit. I was driving outside of my driver's permit restrictions, but I had like 3 cop cars surround me, and they were like, "Are you doing anything illegal?" And I was like, "No," and they're like, "Okay, cool. Let me see your license and registration." I was like,
Yeah.
But they were like, okay, here's your ticket. It was a ticket of $0, right? And I was like, okay, can I go home now? And they're like, we need your parents to show up. And I'm like, come on, my house is like 3 blocks away, please. And they were like, no. But then I went to court, and they fined me $180 and suspended my permit for 3 months. And I told that to Melissa Hodges, and she was like, what? And I was like, what do you mean, what? This is your court. Like, the building's like right like adjacent to yours. How do you not know that your courts are functioning off the backs of poor people or people who just can't do anything about it? I mean, it's so bad.
Just taking advantage of people, because like I wouldn't even thought twice about that in your situation either. It's just something that's like, oh, okay, I gotta fucking eat this one, But if they're the thing that's gross to me is cops can lie to you all they fucking want, but you lie to them once, boom, perjury.
Oh yeah, you're dead.
And it's fucking that is
I don't think
insane
it's
to
perjury.
me. Well,
Like,
you
it
lie to the
doesn't
court,
help your
perjury.
case.
Yeah. But like cops can literally say anything they want to get you to confess. They can lie to you about fucking anything to get you to confess, and they will coerce a confession for a crime you didn't commit just by holding you there for X amount of hours and pressuring you into it. And that should be wrong. Like there's so many practices that go on with the police. The whole fucking system is just messed up. The privatization of prisons is gross.
Ugh.
Like from top to bottom, all the way down. It's just fucking gross.
Actually, I found a fun stat about that. I mean, not really fun, but just
It's fun.
interesting.
Oh, fun facts.
Like, why do I got 3 and 8 stuck in my head today? there's only like a small percent of prisons that are private. Like the rest of the prisons are run by state and the federal government and stuff. But the small majority of them aren't private prisons.
Yeah.
Or are private prisons.
I was gonna say the issue is that a lot of states mandate that their prisons have to reach a certain capacity of it being full in order for it to get
Right.
funding. So a lot of the states, even though they're like functioning as a nonprofit, like, you know, state ones, they have to meet a certain capacity for them to get that funding. And then so you have this incentivization from like officers to start putting people into those prisons. And so what we start to see is that policing happens in very gentrified areas, you know, like Selena, like it's gentrified, like the trailer park behind McDonald's. I live there. And
Which trailer? Oh, the one.
yeah, like on North or like the Planet, like behind
Yeah,
there's
that
like
one.
just a bunch of trailer parks. But if you like go like a few blocks down, there's like all these nice houses, and especially on the north side of Selena. So what you see is that these police officers go to these poor gentrified areas, which tend to be people of color residing in those houses or those residences, because not all of them are houses. Some of them are, you know, like what is it, a camper, because they can't afford. Yeah, like they can't afford housing, which is ridiculous.
Well, they just need to sell drugs. Just sell drugs, and you can afford.
Break the law to make
stuff.
money.
It's not that hard.
Yeah, so you see that this policing happens in these areas, and then they can't afford, you know, like the municipal court system that we have that's like for profit. So like it's just
You have to get a public defender, which is usually dog
That
shit.
whole-
Yeah.
That there's so much that goes into how policing is essentially racist, that it's to me it seems like it'd be better to say it's income based. They're being classist.
yeah.
Like I mean
like
that
when
would
these-
save a lot of the white people the white rage. Like I'm oppressed too.
Yeah, like we see like this classist struggle happening. But when we look at the classist struggle, it starts off with people of color. So like
Yeah.
yes, we see poor white individuals face a lot of struggles that people of color face. I am a woman of color.
Yeah.
I'm Chicana.
But it's not as bad as people
Yeah,
of color.
like the struggles are very similar, obviously not as entrenched, but like the classist struggle is very real, but it begins with individuals of color, and then it now has extended forward into poor white individuals, and we see that those people are preyed on very heavily too.
Yep.
But they don't view it like that.
Yeah, and it's that's one thing too. Like when we talk about the class struggle and the race struggle, there's a huge like interconnectedness between both. But the class struggle and race struggle should never be they're not the same, right? But they are very interconnected simply because the economy fucks over people of color.
Yeah.
But if you're a poor white person, you get fucked over too.
But not as bad as a poor black person. So I mean, it could be worse.
I think
right?
it was. I mean, obviously, it's not just Angela Davis, but a lot. You know, Angela Davis spoke about it in one of her speeches where she was like, the way you maintain power and using racism, to divide the proletariat is by telling the poor white worker that if they don't work hard enough or if they unionize, you'll get replaced by a person of color who they can pay less or exploit. And that's manifesting very heavily nowadays with immigration when they're like, oh, those dirty immigrants are stealing our jobs. It's like, that's exactly what they're telling you. And it's
Yeah.
like, and where people will constantly be like, no, immigrants increase the economy. They help you out. They're taking the jobs that you want to do, but they're not going to hear it because their bosses are telling them, when they come in here, I'll cut you out because they'll work for less.
Yeah.
And that's treated as the norm.
Yeah.
Like people know that's a fucking thing. And it's just like, yep, walk about my day.
Oh, yeah, of course, I'm not going to fight the powers that be because obviously everything is fine.
Yeah.
And that's the problem with the classism versus racism thing too, is because you get into that, you get white people stuck in that thought that they're always going to have a leg up by doing something.
At least they're not black.
Yeah, it's like our bosses are like, your enemy isn't us. Sure, I'm exploiting your labor and stealing all your surplus value, but it's those darn black people who are going to steal your jobs and come up if you dare work less hard. And
Yeah.
you get terrified because the way our system works is if you don't work, if you are not selling your labor, you are starving on the street. You will
Even if you do sell your labor, you're still probably starting on the street.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's be clear with that.
unless you are completely selling yourself and your labor and what you do to the state, you are starving.
Well,
and that's the worst part.
I work for a company under the Chamber of Commerce. I'm not the only one in here that does, but I've been tempted to quit that shithole even though I make good fucking money because it's so against my fucking morals. But I know life would be a fucking struggle. My wife would be scared and all of that because these crooked fucks owning businesses around town and the Chamber of Commerce itself. It's all wrong.
Yeah. The whole thing from top
And
to bottom.
I'm excited that you guys are like 10 years younger than me and you're fucking trying to do something about it. Because I didn't have the balls to when I was your age. So keep at it, please.
Yeah, and like a lot of the things that you're talking about is the Southern strategy that like heavily started with Reagan and extended all the way over to Clinton. So we started to see with like Nixon's era was the war on drugs happening, which was kind of more of like a rhetorical war, obviously very bad. But with Reagan, you saw it turn into like an actual war on drugs, which is egregious campaign, absolutely useless. All it does is imprison. Oh, yeah, and so
Yeah,
what
and
we
they
see-
target like people of color more than they do whites. Yeah.
Kind of going back to your joke of like just sell drugs. It's like CIA's coming to these black neighborhoods like, hey, take this crack and sell it.
You guys
Yeah.
want some
And
drugs?
then arrest them.
Yeah, and then they're like, go sell this. And then they punish those drugs even more. You see a white person with like a kilo of coke, you're like, slap on the wrist, get out of here,
Yeah,
man.
that's a
You-
white collar
You
crime.
joker. You see like a gram of crack on a black person, you know, he's on the ground being like kicked in the stomach.
Yeah, and
Well, I
getting
mean,
30 years in prison
It,
for
it takes a lot less than that. let's be honest.
Yeah, like you just have to be black person existing. You're on the ground
Yeah.
getting kicked. in
Oh,
the
you
stomach.
breathing?
They'll find some crack and sprinkle it on you.
Let me
Yeah,
kneel
sprinkle
on your
some crack
neck,
on
so
'em.
you can't do that either.
Uh,
But are we gonna pretend like the Contras didn't need help? Is that what you're trying to say?
Contra.
The Contras didn't need help.
yes, they do. We need our cocaine and they need their money.
Exactly. So let's not pretend like it wasn't for a good
We do
cause.
need our cocaine. The man has a point.
But you reminded me of a store like you just triggered a bunch of PTSD in me. 'Cause
Oh, shit,
I
sorry.
I hate cops because I grew up in both rural and urban communities in Kansas, and one of the beautiful things about Kansas is the cops will treat you like shit no matter what. And one of the
That is
things I
refreshing.
remember is one of these strategies that they do is they'd go into a trailer park, bang on your door, accuse you of something, and then say, well, I heard your neighbor did this, and I'm going to do this to you unless you talk to me about that. And that's why I hate talking to cops. And whenever a cop pulls into like a parking lot I'm in or something like that, I immediately get up and walk away, which to them looks suspicious, but I'd much rather not talk to them. And that's one of the scariest things about living here, like just being alive and being young and poor, is that there's nothing I can really do.
Well, you're doing something.
Yeah, I'm doing
Collectively, you
something.
guys are
Well,
doing something.
I
That's more than
mean-
the four of us in our 30 years of life have.
Hey,
Like,
I
I
voted
am
5
doing-
times.
Like I do, I mean, like I am doing something, but there's nothing I can do. Like I can't tell them to fuck
In the
off.
moment, yeah.
yeah, I can't tell them to fuck off.
Well, you're
because-
white. You can.
Yeah.
No, because they probably just
You're
say
pretty
what.
Yeah.
I actually once said a really bad joke to a cop once, and he just immediately grabbed his gun. Like I was like, "Here, arrest me," and he just stared at me for like 5 minutes. And
Yeah.
then,
Like
then
No, he had a flex.
that intimidation tactic. Yeah.
I also wanted to go a little bit back to what you were saying about being, a worker in the Chamber of Commerce, right? One of the conversations that we were having at like 5 a.m. the other day, because like this is the kind of stuff, people are always like, oh, those kids be talking about like their TikTok and shit. And it's like, no, we're talking about how we can, how classism is affecting us in America and even in our like small,
So you guys are doing shrooms.
Yeah, obviously. But one of the things we were talking about is like, how much can the Sunflower Coalition do in the way of reform before, because like under the systems that we work in, there will always have to be someone at the bottom, like someone who is unemployed, in order for their employers to use them as a threat of replacement. And if that's true, then someone will always have to be poor and someone will always be targeted by police. And, those people will probably be people of color, which entrenches racism again. So it's like, how far can we really go with these legal reforms before we reach a wall where like there is no more that you can do as long as you exist in a structure that gives business owners all the power and needs people at the bottom in order to continue functioning. So it's, we all agree that we're doing something good and we're glad that we're doing something, but we know that at some point it's not going to be enough.
Honestly, the saddest reality of change is all of us in this room probably aren't going to see the effects of it. But if we can start that ball rolling, our kids, kids, they will see it. They will understand it. The biggest thing for me and that is you can only go so far is like my thought is you change the generation after you. So you correct their thought process, get them away from that these poor people, these underprivileged people are your enemy mentality as early as possible. Instill it in them young and keep them moving forward so that they can pass that down. And eventually there's not going to be anybody to oppress because everybody just sees everybody as a fucking human being. Is that a pipe dream? Probably.
That is
But at the
real hopeful.
at the
I
same
have done mushrooms several times.
I was gonna say,
Same.
That is
like,
super hopeful.
you know,
Yeah.
Super sane.
it's
hopeful.
like the system we live in, right, necessitates someone to be at the
Somebody
bottom.
oppressed.
Well, we're raised to rely on a business. Dad says, get a job. You get a fucking job when you're a teenager, and then there goes life. Fuck that. There needs to be like almost a revolt to where everyone goes, I'm not going to work tomorrow. Fuck
Yeah.
that. Let's live off the land as people. And
that's what gets scary too, because when you start saying things like revolt and like we need to change the system, people are like, "Oh my god, this person is a domestic terrorist."
yeah.
But I've talked about Molotov cocktails many a time on this podcast.
But you know, like it's like, what will it take? Like, I mean, like I'm not gonna take any specific stance because I don't want anyone calling me a commie. You know?
Yeah.
well, you are, so
I mean,
don't
yeah.
worry about it.
But I mean, like, yeah. So I'm not gonna make a specific stance. We'll discuss that off the record.
I've said it a million
But-
times. Eat the rich.
Eat the rich. At some point, we need to make sure that those people, you know, you almost have to flip the script on them, right? Like,
so now you'll
start
oppress the minority
Yeah.
still?
Oppress the 1%.
Yeah,
Duh.
I mean,
guys are
Jeff
so
Bezos
ridiculous.
will not, in his lifetime or in the lifetime of his next 3 generations, ever eat through even the principal amount, much less the interest on the money he owns right now.
Yeah, he could stop
And
making the money
he's
now
gonna be
and be
a
all right.
trillionaire.
Forever.
Yeah.
He can just let his money sit in the bank. And like, I mean, like I have like $1,000 in my savings account at like 0.15% interest. 0.15% interest on $1 trillion is more than enough to keep him alive. It's like just
Yeah, that's probably more than
He
the
could buy a
average
couple
salary of this
countries.
room.
Combined.
Yeah.
like it's insane. Nobody needs that much money.
No.
And in Selena, we see that on like on a micro scale too. Like there are people here who have a lot of money, and you can see it. Just like drive down Ohio and just watch as the quality of houses get worse and worse and worse as you go farther north. At what point are we going to start discussing the fact that our business owners will always pay our workers less than they're worth because that's how they turn a profit. You pay your workers less than what they're
No,
worth.
so they turn more of a profit.
Well, not even that, because if you pay your workers what they're worth, what they're creating for you, then you're making zero, right? You're breaking even because that's the cost. You know, the cost of labor, right? So you have to pay them slightly less in order to make a profit for your business.
But see, to me, that's backwards thinking. If everybody pays their workers more money, that means they'll have more money to spend. That means more money going to your business. And it's a cycle. Nobody needs to keep money. It just fucking stagnates there. And shit dies.
Well, and
that's
that's-
what's fucked up about our economy is
Yeah.
nobody has money to spend.
Yeah, except for the rich people that don't spend the money. And they keep bailing out those rich peoples that don't spend the money. There's a reason they're rich because they don't spend any fucking money.
That's the first lesson of economics I got told when I was a pizza delivery guy. Rich people don't tip. You deliver pizza, rich people don't fucking tip. That's why they're rich.
Your boss will never pay you enough to be his neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Well, that's because you're black.
He ain't trying to live in the hood.
There's this good lecture that professor somewhere, I don't know, his name's Richard Wolff though, and he explains it like this. Say that you are the boss of a chair manufacturing company. There are 2 things that cost money. One, the raw materials, the wood, the glues, the hammers, the nails. The owner acquires that any means necessary. You know, we don't really know where he gets it from, but he gets it. And the second thing is the worker, the laborer, puts in a certain amount of time, certain amount of effort, and that is worth the amount of money. And, you know, so let's say the raw materials are worth 100, and the laborer is also worth 100. In the end total, it's worth 200. And so the thing is, if you pay your worker 100, you're not making any money because you got to pay off the materials. So you got to pay him less. So you being generous, you know, you pay him 50. That means you get 50, but he's not getting what he's worth. You are taking away what he is worth, that worker, and giving it to yourself. And on a mass scale, you know, that's how you get worker. That's how you get rich. You exploit people.
Oh, yeah.
No one gets rich by being nice.
Mm-hmm.
You have to exploit people and you have to oppress people
I feel
in
like
order
Bill
to
Gates
get that.
is nice.
He's also trying to.
Oh fuck, I forgot.
He's also
Yeah.
trying to put fucking micro
He's-
robots into your.
He created the
vaccines
coronavirus.
and-
I forgot.
Vaccines, man.
My
They,
bad.
the microchips.
I misspoke. Bill
Uh,
Gates, you devilish fuck.
One of the things a lot of people get wrong with this kind of thing is that the concept that how much you make is how much you're going to pay your worker. They have the money before they even buy the resources because they need workers to be able to make this shit. So a lot of the times what they do is if I like when I was working at Perkins, I was making like $7.50 an hour.
That's what I seen you.
Yeah.
Boom.
They had the $30, like the $50 I was making a day, but what they didn't have was the $2,000 that they made there. So they're not going to give me more because of how much they made. They already had that money. They already paid me technically because they knew how much I was on work. And so when people use that as a defense, that say, "Oh, well, just go out and eat, and then we'll pay you more." They're not going to pay you more. What they're going to do is they're going to hold that, count it as capital, and then try and do it again and again.
Yeah, it's exponential.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that's why we gotta. You have to have a bottom livable minimum wage.
oh yeah.
Like if you don't, the wages aren't going to go up. Obviously,
Well,
like you said, people aren't kind.
Like my current job, we set the orders out record 3 times in the last 2 weeks, and the last time we did it was by over 150 orders. So, and you know what we got out of that?
$2.
Pizza party from Little Caesars, baby.
Wow,
That's-
hot
Pizza
and
Fest,
ready.
the
Yeah.
pizza party structure. It worked in elementary schools. It works now. When Corona's over, Sunflower Coalition's gonna have a pizza party. Like that's how we're gonna, because none of us are getting paid.
Yeah.
We got people who are actual like working people. Who like we got people who are actually doing jobs, and on top of that are like trying to do research, writing speeches. Going through, making meetings, and it's like, how am I gonna repay them? Well, maybe I'll have a pizza party.
High fives.
Just
crisp high five.
no, but at
After all
some
this
point we
Yeah.
also.
Wash your hands.
Yeah. And I want, at some point, we also have to question whether or not wages are ever going to be enough. You know what I mean? Like, you can increase the wage so much, but as you increase the wages, they're going to need to also increase their prices in order to turn a profit. So things are just going to keep... Yeah.
Prices are already increasing.
I mean, no, that's the point.
Inflation.
But like, as a wage,
Increases in pay
like, a
aren't
wage will
increasing.
always be less than what a person is worth. So I don't know if the response. I mean, like, I am in favor of increasing wages, but at some point we got to start questioning if the system of wages it will ever be enough. But I mean, that I was going to say, because we were talking about police reform, and now we are on economics.
Yeah, it
Oh,
happens.
dude.
It happens.
You
I mean,
open the-
it's
you
all
open the
it's
whole
all intertwined.
floodgates.
It's really all intertwined.
It is. The whole fucking system is just, it's connected and everything.
One of the things that they do fuck you over with higher wages, though, is you get taxed higher. And so usually after taxes, let's say back to what I was making at Perkins, $7.50. After taxes, I was probably making about $4, like maybe $4 or $5. That's not livable. And so what they do is they say, "Oh, well, you make $15 here, but after taxes, you're probably making around $8." So one of the things that I'm not going to say it's something that helps them, but and I'm not going to get into conspiracy theory, but I do think that bosses do know that taxes play a factor in how much they're paying. So they aren't actually giving the money to taxes; they're just saying this is how much someone is what they owe you, and that's it. And they don't actually pay you what you are meant to be paid. Like, they aren't giving you the $15; they're just holding that money, just giving you the $8. So
Yeah, it's one of my quote unquote rebellious acts is I basically refuse to work overtime. Like, I get that it's time and a half for
Same.
me, but my time is worth way more than any job is
yeah.
ever going to pay me. So I don't give a flying fuck if your numbers are too low. That's your problem. That ain't my problem.
Oh, yeah.
I made my 40-hour money. I'm going home. You
Yeah,
can
and
kiss
I-
my fucking dick if your shit don't go out the door. I don't give a shit.
And I probably did more work in those 40 than half them fucking overtime employees did in 50. So go fuck yourself.
Oh, calling out Blake's boys.
Oh,
Calling out Blake's
I'm
boys.
trying to find this
Drama
very,
alert.
I'm trying to find this very important meme that's about that's like I want to sit on the floor all of day, but I must work for somebody so that I can have enough money to sit on the floor some of day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just a picture of Kermit the Frog like crying on the floor. It's really it's really sad.
Super existential.
So what are you guys doing? Any sort of like tracking or data or like counting your wins or stuff along the way to show that you're like making a fucking difference?
Like milestones.
like I have faith that you will, but showing that you have, I think, is very important too.
Yeah. One way that I guess our big, one of our big wins was, I guess, small wins, was getting this public forum to happen.
Yep.
Right? We were like, yo, when are you going to start talking about things? Like, okay, we'll have a public forum. Our next thing is on the 20th. On the meeting on the 20th, we will be presenting our first policies.
Yeah.
And hopefully those will pass through. Hopefully.
Get their attention. You're gonna get their attention first.
And they seem to be relatively on board on dissolving the current advisory board and making something better. So we're hoping that will be at least something, because then a couple of us are going to be heading off to college, and we'll have to start our work up in Lawrence, and it'll be great.
Lawrence is a lot better than Selena. I'll tell you that.
I've heard some things. I've heard some things about Lawrence's.
It's not perfect, but it's better than Selena.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of like radical lefties in college who are like, let's take it on the system. You just got to start capitalizing networking like that. But
one of the sad parts about Lawrence. Oh, sorry, were you gonna say something?
You can go.
Now we're on Lawrence. One of the sad things about Lawrence is that it's really rich. So I don't want to go there, because I know if I ever tell them anything about myself personally, then I'll have to answer a bunch of questions from white people that have never experienced these things.
Lawrence isn't really rich. Johnson County's really rich.
Yeah, I heard that.
Which is right next to Lawrence. There is big money in Lawrence. I'm not going to bullshit you. I lived in a pretty expensive neighborhood with a friend of mine after he got out of the military up there. But a lot of Lawrence, normal Lawrence, is poor.
Yeah.
There's a lot of poor in Lawrence.
I mean,
like
those are the best people. I'm telling you, too,
I had
though.
to debate Johnson
Those
County
fucking
kids.
dudes have hella parties.
it's like
poor
Johnson-
Lawrence is a fucking great place to be.
It's like Johnson County's the hill in Salina. And
Yeah.
then the
Yeah.
rest is
Johnson
You guys
County's
are
one-
so
is like-
fucked up.
Yeah,
The
I will
hill is
say,
that way.
if you go to Lawrence, stay away from Tennessee Street. That's frat row. Those guys are
focused
douchebags.
on sound, not
Johnson County is
compass.
like, if it's not the richest district in America, at least school wise, I think it's one of like top 10, top 5.
Yeah, it's up
and
there. Mm-hmm.
We've debated them. We've beat them a couple times. But we've debated them. Like their debate team, like Blue Valley Southwest that takes their debate team on a spring break trip to Europe? Like
That would not
I was gonna
surprise
say,
me.
we have to fundraise to get to nationals. Like we're,
Yeah.
and like when we get to, like, even then, like, I remember last time we went to nationals, we were like crammed in our Suburbans, and like in the in between spaces, there was just like boxes of food because we couldn't afford to eat out, so we were just like taking beef jerky and shit with us, so that over the course of the week we'd be like just munching on beef jerky as we're competing from like 5 a.m. until 11 p.m. for an entire week.
Yeah.
And you know,
Hustling.
5 people in a single
no, and it's really funny too, because like, remember that one time, was it in Dallas that we went to the Olive Garden, and the entire table, because all the coaches that were with us were sitting at one table adjacent to the main table with all the competitors, all the high schoolers, and we were all crying. I remember that day at Olive Garden, we were all crying like, God damn, we are so tired and stressed. Like, or any of, like, we were like, who do you think is gonna like be the first one of us to die? Do you think we'll have to go to any of our funerals like early? And we were just kind of talking about how fucking awful it is that we were competing for so long for so little benefit, knowing that the rich kids were going to be the ones that win at the end. And then the coaches look over and like, why are all of our kids crying? Like, are they okay? It was great.
They just never been to an Olive Garden before.
Oh, fuck Olive Garden.
First time they've been in one.
This is the greatest authentic Italian food I've ever had.
One of our members wrote an essay, a college essay, on the prompt is like, Olive Garden says that they have infinite breadsticks, but considering that there's only a finite number of breadsticks in the universe, like resource in the universe, how is this possible? Explain using any terms you want, whether it be physics, philosophy, biology. And so
That sounds like an awesome paper to write.
his response was, oh, well, you see, the human being can, like, on average, can only take about 5 gallons of food in their stomach before it ruptures. So that means that Olive Garden can make this claim as long as they have enough breadsticks, like more than 5 gallons per person of breadsticks. And you know, and then he emailed them later. And he's like, if you guys let me in, like, I will figure this out myself. I will go to Olive Garden. And, I looked at some of the previous prompts from that school too. One of them was really scary. It was just find X. That was, and it's supposed to be like a 2-page essay, and it's like, just find X.
Just find X.
Find it.
That's how you write X gonna give it to you and turn up the chin.
Just
Yeah,
so
you guys probably don't get that reference,
no,
do you?
isn't that? I mean, I only know it from Deadpool.
DMX?
I only know it from Deadpool. Which
Hey,
is,
hey,
It's
you
DMX.
gotta
I was gonna say I'm also I think the least pop
Generations.
culturally educated of all of us. I had to figure out what based was because of Robert over here. I was like, based on what?
So what? Can you drop some hints on the policy?
Oh yeah,
Can you give us a little
was gonna
little
say-
hot take?
it still has. I mean, it's only gone through its first section of revisions, but
Brett Nelson has to change his name to Stacey.
That's number one.
Hey,
Top of the list.
that'll catch their attention. Yo,
we will die on this hill.
I would not be mad about it.
Oh my
I mean, you just give him the fucking suck it right after you say it.
Oh, I could hear myself peak on that. That's very sorry. So one of our larger policy is the one on redoing the CRB, which is the Citizens Review Board, and that would involve one, probably dissolving the one that already exists. Two, giving it the actual power to do investigations, because the current police advisory board can only review what is given to them by the chief of police, which means you have to rely on the police to do internal investigations first. So the police is policing themselves, and that's obviously bad.
No, that works.
Oh, it's great. You know,
works
that's
every
actually.
time.
I mean, because
That's
they're
why 90% of them aren't arrested
Perfect.
for committing crimes.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, but yeah, no. So the
they aren't
the new
crimes.
advisory board would need to have the authority to conduct its own investigations and look into stuff. It also has to have the ability, because the current advisory board, and you can check this in Robert Cunningham's speech on, I forgot what week it was, but he explicitly says that the advisory board, their job is not to change things; it's just to make recommendations, which they have no authority to actually enforce the recommendations. In other places, like I believe Lawrence or Newton, the police advisory boards there can overstep they can make a recommendation to the police chief, but if they don't follow it, then they can overstep them to the city commission and have the city commission force those changes.
So I'd like to recommend you guys stop killing black people. Oh,
that's gonna be a hard.
a tough sell.
That's
Well,
gonna hurt our
let me,
revenue.
let me check the police excellence fund.
Or we've got loopholes to deal with that.
We didn't kill him; he just stopped breathing on his
Yeah,
own.
find us the data. Oh, which apparently we just aren't keeping very clear data on like anything, like stats on like the people were, and that was one thing too. We were just talking to Davis and Hodges and Scraig after one of the meetings, which like we've really made their jobs a lot harder, because they used to be getting out like 6 p.m. and that the last meeting they didn't get out till like 10:30 p.m. and we were
that's
and
what they're there for.
Luke and I sat there for 6 hours through that meeting.
Honestly, Hodges probably loves that. Because we've had her on the podcast a couple of times, and
Really?
she's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's one of the ones that's she's advocates for a time change to give people a chance to actually come to meetings, but she keeps telling us like it's a boys club and she's not a part of it.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm not surprised. I really am not. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if like there was secretly like some like secret cult, like robed cult at the basement of the Chamber of Commerce, being like, you know, like
Yeah. And people say white people don't have culture.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
But yeah, no, like
Here, drink this.
But you know, when we were talking to them, Scraig, like we were just bringing stuff up, and Scraig made the comment like, "Oh, I don't even know if we have stats on that," and we were like, "Wait, what? You're the city manager. You're technically Chief Nelson's boss, and you don't know if we have stats on what the police are doing? Like, doesn't that seem a little?"
Well, and that's another national problem. Like
Yeah.
there's so many things with
Well,
police that they don't keep track
it was
of.
James Comey, right? That was like you can figure out how many people, like how many ice creams are eaten in a year, but you cannot tell me, you know, how many people are killed by the police, because
Yeah.
we just don't keep those stats.
Well, think about our company and how a lot of it is still ran like it's the fucking 90s. The police department is a business too, and I bet they're running shit like it's still 1993 as well. And
Which
Probably
1993 is
before
actually
that.
when we got our SWAT team.
huh.
Fun
Wow,
fact.
you know so much.
We found that out today.
Nice.
Yeah.
I just plucked a random 90s date out of my head, so
It's those essential oils.
Yeah.
We're vibing. We're on the same
they're like
wavelength.
You guys
it's
huffed 'em?
worked. It's worked through the 90s and 2000s. Why shouldn't it work now? It's
You
all
have to evolve with time.
exactly.
Not if it's working.
People don't like change.
If it's working,
Which,
don't
yeah.
fix. Don't.
If you
break
go
it
to
or
also
whatever.
the meeting where they talk about the police advisory board, which was that week 2 or 3, 2, right?
that's one of the phrases they keep saying. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. They kept saying it over and over again, and we were like,
That's
but
terrible.
it's super broke. Like,
But
it's actually
yeah.
like, are you being like purposefully ignorant? Like, do you know it's broken and you're not saying? Are you just like dumb? Like, do you not realize that it's broken?
And I don't know which is. I think the first one's worse.
Yeah, the
Being
first one
willfully
is
ignorant is definitely worse than being
Yeah.
dumb.
Yeah, because then like they're purposefully misleading the community because they know they're being recorded. They know that stuff going on public record, and they're saying it's not broken. So they know people are going to read it, and they know people are going to cite them.
Yep.
So if they're willfully being ignorant, they are purposefully turning people into sheep.
Yeah.
And you know how much those conservatives hate being a sheep. Like,
Yeah.
Well,
I
I
ain't wearing a
mean,
goddamn mask.
I'm a sheep, and it's not that bad.
You're a black sheep, though. Racist. That's problematic. Problematic. Sorry.
No, it wasn't. Don't do that. So you guys are talking about your first policy is the review board. What's
Did you have something you wanted to say?
I was going to say to a comment earlier. This is back to our founding. We were going way back, but we'll go back to you. The reason why we call ourselves a human rights organization is because in Kansas specifically is that majority of people killed by police are white and usually unarmed. And so I don't want to speak for all of us, but I kind of want to speak for myself. And it's that it hurts when people try and detract from that because a lot of people are dying.
Yeah.
And so when we divide this up, it's making it easier for them to either say you're racist and then say, oh, you just hate white people, you hate black people. More white people are killed, therefore black people shouldn't be complaining. More black people are killed,
That's
therefore
my
white
favorite
people
one.
shouldn't be
Yeah.
complaining.
We win.
Yeah. And
We win police brutality.
and that's disgusting.
Still.
You're
And
right,
that's
though. It's a-
disgusting because we're
it's a
talking
human
about
thing.
people here. They're people being killed by police, and when you try and detract from this issue, when you say more white people are being killed, Black Lives Matter is full of shit, then you are now playing into the hands of the people of like justifying the murder of white people.
Yeah.
You're now saying, oh, yeah, we killed a bunch of people in that bombing, in that hospital bombing, but what about all the terrorists that died?
Yeah.
And so one of the things I want to
What
make
about
clear
them? They
is
had families. Sorry.
one of the things that we want to make clear is that we don't care if they're white or black, they're still people, and the police killing them when they're unarmed, when it was usually either for a warrant being served and them just being like, oh, you're being physical with me, blam blam.
Yeah.
We're not going to fall for that. A lot of people now are starting to be like, oh, you're a hate group, shit like that.
Yeah. That's,
We don't care about the skin of them. We care about the fact that they're people and that they're being killed by fucking cops and cops who are getting away with this.
Yeah.
In every case, I think around maybe 60 people were killed in Kansas. No cop was ever charged. I think they blamed one of the killings on some guy.
The swatting?
Huh?
The swatting one you're talking about?
No, I think the swatting one, but there's a little girl that was shot and killed, and they blamed it on her kidnapper.
If
And-
he would have just got out of the car, he wouldn't have shot it up.
Yeah.
Fucking
And
weird.
that's actually what happened. They
No
shot at a
fucking
moving
way.
car. They shot at a moving car. It hit the little girl who's in the back seat, and then they're just like, "Oh well, the kidnapper was there."
Well,
So-
if we had X-ray scopes, yeah, they need X-ray scopes so they can not hit people in moving cars.
I've seen the back of a comic book. Them bitches are only $1.50.
If
You don't
we
need
just had a
$12,000.
tank- If we just had a tank,
We could have blown up the entire fucking street.
It's not a tank.
Look,
Not a
look.
tank.
We just need to
It is an
outfit
armored personnel
the
carrier.
police force in Iron Man suits, just all Iron Man suits. The point you were making about people saying Black Lives Matter is only about black people comes from a place of ignorance, though. Like if you literally read what their mission is for, it's for the reforms of school or a school system. It's for just poor people.
Yeah.
Since it's not an organization, I didn't like. Is it on a website? Is it on?
Yeah, they have their own.
I didn't know they had a fucking website.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
It's so
Well, and-
decentralized that they aren't a organization, but a lot of people think
They're,
it is.
yeah, they have like chapters and everything like that.
Like Antifa
So I guess they're not really wholly organized, but
Well, and that's one of my favorite things too. Is like when people are like, "Well, more white people get killed by cops," and everybody's like, "Well, yeah, that's not okay either." You know, like we're not saying that's
Yeah.
not, like. Yeah. Oh shit! I didn't think about that.
And that's one thing too. Like that was a long thing that we've talked about. I was like, how do we position ourselves as a platform, right? Because the Black Lives Matter movement. People are always like, well, people think it's like only Black Lives Matter. Obviously not.
No.
And in the same way, when we first started, we were called the colorless performance by some of the people that we were trying to reach out to.
Yeah.
Because we were, they're like, well, you're including. It's like no, like. There's so many things that are interconnected with the problems in society that affect people of color, but we're doing something. It's the bottom line. We're doing something.
Yeah.
We are. And the fact that, like we understand that the positions we're coming from were championed by the Black Lives Matter movement, specifically around police reform. But, when you're talking about reform, you got to look at a lot of different factors.
Yeah.
Like poverty, housing, education, economic opportunity. In addition to that, the color of your skin. And also, I think it's just really funny, your color is performance. It's like, I'm brown. Like, I'm literally brown.
Yeah.
It's just, God, it's great.
me too. I'm
Great and
brown.
fun.
Hashtag.
Hashtag brown lives
The
matter. man.
thing with like the narrative that we have of like, well, X person was a criminal, X person was like running away. It's like we need to end that narrative that no one should have been killed in the first place. Whether
Yeah.
or not you have a criminal record, whether or not you were running away, whether or not you're resisting arrest from an officer that is like manhandling you very heavily. Like we need to end that narrative of like, well, if they did something wrong, well then they deserve to be shot. Because we need to question first, why is someone being shot in the first place, and like why are we allowing someone who has like all end power over someone? Because like there's like an imbalance of power, and like one of my former teachers is a history teacher, and he was formerly a cop, and he talked about how officers like they would have to navigate like their encounters with civilians in a way that they would try to get individuals to waive their rights. His quote, like he said, we try to get individuals to waive their rights when we are first confronting them at an arrest, so we can then like not have to do the Miranda rights. We don't have to like let them know that they're like like their person is being seized illegally. And so what we see is that
The whole
the
thing
narrative
is a
just
fucking
needs to be
scam.
flipped in a way of like no one should be dying in the first place, whether or not you are a convicted felon or a criminal or any of those things in the first place. So like I think we need to like move away, because whenever we see like videos of like George Floyd like passing away, unfortunately, just like any video in general, the first thing we think was, well, was he resisting arrest? Like, does he have a criminal record? Like, does that even matter?
No. Because the police aren't executioners. They're not judge, jury, and executioner.
Yes.
Period. They're supposed to be upholding the law. And
Protecting and serving.
Yeah, and then that shit does not extend to murdering people on the streets.
Yeah,
especially when they'll let like fucking Dylan Roof kill 9 people in a church and take them to fucking Burger King before they take them to jail.
They weren't white people, so it's
You
not
know?
as bad. Oh, you're right. You're right.
That's what I was about to say.
That's-
Like,
yeah.
You see
right.
George Floyd, people are like, "Oh, but he had drugs in his system. He robbed a pregnant woman." I don't give a fuck. He was murdered.
Yeah.
He didn't like, did he do that shit before he got killed? No, that was years ago.
Yeah.
Like, did he get charged for it? Did he pay the time for it? If he did, then he shouldn't have died for it. That doesn't matter. Ahmaud Arbery. He's like, "Oh, but there's videos of him going to a house." I don't give a shit if he stole the entire house on his back. He should not have died.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
And fucking
like-
Eric Gardner getting choked out for fucking selling loose cigarettes.
Yeah,
like,
go-
really a 50-cent
Trayvon
cigarette
Martin.
was worth
People are
somebody's
like-
life.
Trayvon Martin, people were like, "Oh, but he attacked George Zimmerman." George Zimmerman wasn't in uniform. He attacked Trayvon Martin first.
George Zimmerman isn't a cop.
Yeah.
He's a fucking neighborhood watch.
Yeah, haven't you seen that movie?
Yeah.
Haven't you
Neighborhood
seen that
Watch.
movie?
And it's like he gets off on the stand your ground law, and people are like, "Oh, Trayvon Martin should have attacked him." Motherfucker, what did he get off on?
Even the stand your ground law doesn't mean you can just shoot somebody. Like it means you can resist with the same force that you're being attacked.
Yeah,
with.
I mean, like,
if
the
I
way
come
it
at
was-
you with a sword, you can't just shoot.
So he should have
You
killed
have to have
Trayvon
another
Martin
sword.
with an Arizona tea and a bag of Skittles. is what
Yeah,
you're
just
saying.
like,
yeah.
Let me go to the store,
Trayvon. Hold on, I'll be right back.
you stay right here.
the way it was applied is like, if
Amazon
I went up
Katana
to
real quick.
Santi,
Maybe in 2 days.
like the way the law was applied is like, if I go up to Santi, punch him in the face, and he's like, "Dude, what the fuck?" And he pushes me back. I pull out my gun and I just pop a cap in his ass. And they're like, "Oh, you were fine, bro." Like that's exactly how it was, and people were justifying it.
America.
So to go back to your point about narratives and stuff, the funny thing to me is the people using that narrative. Well, you should have listened to the cops. You should have done this. You should have done that. Are the same exact people that are like, man, fuck the government. I don't want to deal with the government telling me what to do with my life. Not understanding that police are an extension of the government.
Yeah.
Like literally,
They're the state.
they're the enforcement of the government.
It's so weird, and I'm going to have Robert talk about this because Robert has a lot of strong feelings on this. But it's so weird that so much of Kansas and just like Midwestern people are super anti-establishment, but for some reason they're like, obey the government. You know, it's like, well, no, you yourself are like, fuck the government. We need a smaller government. It's like, well, yeah, I agree.
You're the same people bitching about a fucking mask ordinance in town. You know,
it's stupid.
And
it's so dumb.
That's the thing. It's like it's annoying when you hear check your privilege, but that is the definition of check your privilege. You know, because you are willfully disobeying an ordinance, not a law, yes, but an ordinance that the same system has established.
Yeah,
but
and you're okay with that.
Infringed.
You're okay with that. But you can justify a man getting choked to death for selling loose cigarettes in the corner.
It's like, oh yeah, no, like when the protests happened, when the protests and the riots happened, people were like, they're disrespecting the law. They're not, staying inside during the what is it called? Not quarantine. No. It was like no. It's the curfew, right? Because they set a curfew in cities, and they're like they have to pay. And it's like you weren't staying. You were criticizing curfews during quarantine.
For a fucking haircut.
Yeah, why are you not
You
criticizing?
were taking AKs into fucking state capitals.
It's stupid because they're like
2 weeks before.
Because during the protests they're like, oh, you got to obey the law. There's a curfew. But while there was curfews during quarantine, they were like, fuck the government. They can't. That's personal freedom. So that and it's like. No, you're just a hypocrite.
Yeah.
You don't like that it's happening to you. And it's, oh my God. What I think is really funny too is that,
For some reason, they interpret it as oppression.
yeah.
Look,
like
white people are oppressed. You can't just go to the store and buy fucking avocado bread.
Why do white people want to be oppressed so damn bad?
Because it's part of black culture and black culture is cool.
The man has a point.
Spitting facts.
No bars.
Okay, a little bit of like a meta. Like I'm gonna astrally project it on my body here for a second.
Oh shit!
I'm on the ceiling.
This man's done mushrooms.
Acid dipped mushrooms.
But like I think it's really funny, right? Because these are the kind of conversations we have amongst ourselves and the kind of stuff that like. But if you look at our videos at the city commission, we have to present ourselves much differently, right?
Oh, yeah.
So like the city commission saw me saying, everything that I've been saying here, cursing and talking about shrooms and being like, fuck capitalism,
To be in general, he hasn't been talking about shrooms. Well, mainly me. I have been talking about shrooms.
But it's like the fact that I have to create a different personality from like the politician, right, in quotes, a version of myself to the my natural self.
To be listened to.
To be listened to, right? And that's just basic code switching. And it's probably because the city commission is a white space, right?
Yeah.
Professionality is white, right?
And I've been saying it for probably years at this point. We need that generation to just die so that we can evolve as a country.
Come on, Corona.
Yeah.
You can do it.
You know how many times I've just wanted to drop like just an F-bomb in the middle? Like, why is this so fucking stupid? Because it is.
Just say pussy instead.
Why is it so pussy stupid?
Like seriously, like when they were like, oh, they're the police advisory board isn't broken, don't fix it. I wanted to just be like, that is fucking stupid and wrong. But I can't.
Who cares? Like honestly, just
the
fucking
thing is,
normalize that shit.
But he'll get pulled out. That's the reason that they'll.
And I risk losing the public support too, because like the reason we have, the reason they're not calling us those crazy kids is because we present ourselves as adults. We present ourselves as reasonable and mature,
quote unquote, civilized.
No, like I have to come out there and be like, "Hello, thank you for giving me your time to listen to a problem that you created."
Here are some tortillas. I hope you like them.
And it's stupid,
Sorry.
right? Because I can't, because
Problematic.
there is something to be said. There is something to be said about rage, right? Like I have a right to be frustrated and I have a right to express that frustration to the people who have the direct power to change what is frustrating me, but refuse to. But I can't, right? I have to switch into my
professional, aka white version of myself.
Oh, yeah.
In order to be listened to and to be reasoned with.
Well,
Otherwise, they just reject me at face.
Have you seen the video of the dude in, what was it, Louisville, at the school board, where he called out the chick for shopping while he was talking to him about
Tanya or some shit like that?
while they were talking about changing the name of the school.
Yo, that dude had bars.
He got towards the end of it. They ended up not voting in a black woman into the, like, I don't know, superintendent position or something like that. And he got up and started getting pretty heated with the whole thing. And they just basically shouted him down for his 30 seconds of public time. And then as the second he got off the podium, they canceled the public time and moved on with the rest of the fucking meeting. So like, that's the thing you got to worry about if you try to get too vocal about your what you're passionate about, which is bullshit.
Which is dumb.
It's
really
so
dumb.
fucking stupid because it's like you get people that go up there, but at the same time you get dumbass people that go up there and scream about masks and Jesus. So,
Oh, yeah.
you gotta. There is a kind of a line. I like as I was going through that thought, I was like, wait, hold on.
yeah.
So
I saw that video from
for me
Florida.
not to wear a piece of cloth on my face.
Yeah,
Then let it come down to all who votes this motherfucker off the stand, and then even the crowd will go, yeah, I get this motherfucker out here next.
Bye.
but
Don't put the power in their hands still. Like, let people have a voice.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I wish that we could make it a normal thing for the cops or the city council or anything. It's like, we're your boss. You're not ours.
Exactly.
Like, we pay your salary.
You're
Yeah.
a servant of the people. At least
Yeah.
you claim to be.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden,
That
you're
is
telling me
literally
that
your
you're
job
gonna, that you're going to
description.
roll over my house with a tank. Like, so what is it? Are you a servant or are you going to kill me? Like, there's a clear difference there. And it also just really, and this is just more of a personal thing, but it pisses me off that I can't see what the commissioners and our authorities like Mr. Nelson and Mr. Morton,
Oh, Stacey.
who they are, Stacey, who these people
now on.
are, right? I know what their jobs are. I know that they are professionals, but what are they actually like? Like,
Where's the transparency?
it's like, I want to know who you are as a person so I can reason with you as a person. I don't want to be reasoning with the facade of who you are.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, I appreciate that they come out and talk to us, and like express how they really feel to some extent afterwards. I mean, like, I know Davis and I were talking about like how we shouldn't have courts for profit. And I was like, hell yeah, why didn't you say that during the meeting? Maybe that would have been cool to say on the record.
Well, see, the funny thing is Barack Obama showed us, like, you have to be perfect if you're a black man in any position of power. Like, one slip up, one tan suit,
One tan
and you're
suit.
fucking
That's all
gone.
it takes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yet you have people fucking with millions of rape allegations and shit. Nobody gives a fuck. Like, it's like, oh, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
It was expected. You're white. You should rape people.
Yeah.
You can do that. It's your right as an American.
And one of the sad things about that too is, and as we talked about earlier, is a lot of these meetings are barred from like workers. Like that's nationwide. Like a lot of people that are critical of Obama were people that had the time to do it, that had the time to be like, oh, Obama didn't probably shake
old
this guy's
white
hand.
people.
Old white people.
That dude that sits above the interstate every fucking day.
Yes.
I want to
And-
sit next to him one day.
He's not there anymore. I wonder what happened to him.
He is. I just saw him the other day.
Coronavirus.
And one of the sad things about this is, and I'm going to admit this, a lot of white working class people watch Fox News.
What?
A lot of them.
Are you
Because
sure?
it's a standard channel. It's like the only news channel that you can watch that isn't boring. And one
But
of
it's
the-
also not news. That's why it's not boring.
I mean, Tucker Carlson is kind of fun to watch sometimes. Like,
Is he?
Rage.
Like, if you like smashing your head against a brick wall with nails sticking out, yeah.
It's funny how you bring up Fox News because Fox News, not recently, but they got into like a lawsuit or whatever for like misinformation, and Fox was like, wait a minute, if you actually look, we're registered as an entertainment channel, not a news channel.
Yeah.
So, like,
90% of their
Fox News-
program is opinion.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like Fox News isn't even like legally a news channel; it's an entertainment channel. That's just fun fact for you. Fox News isn't even registered as a news channel. It's
Yeah.
entertainment.
Tell
So
that-
we could get a show on Fox.
Tell
eventually.
that to our moms.
Oh, yeah, that's fun.
But as I was saying, and so as I specified earlier, and I think if we ever did start ranting about white people, like in public, Fox News would pick it up and be like, "Oh, here's some anti-white, anti-worker, anti-all this," and this will resonate with a lot of people. A lot of people who watch this and are workers and are white and can then be like, well, I don't like this happens to me a lot. This yada yada yada. It's not just black people. Therefore, they don't care about me and they only care about black people. And they will push that narrative a lot. And that's one of the sad things about Kansas is that a lot of these struggles that we're talking about affect them. It affects everyone. It affects not just black people. It affects white people as well, but they don't see that because the only source of information they're getting is from a group that is now the
pushing that narrative.
the
it's separate.
controlled the token right-wing news media.
Yeah.
There's a lot of white trash in the world.
Yeah.
We're not much different.
Hey, shout out to the Lincoln Project, though.
And
Shout
one
out to
of the other things that was brought up at the last meeting was race sheets, like what you put down as your race on like government sheets and stuff like that. And she brought up a lot of good points, such as the fact that when you just say African American, it doesn't actually say what you are because you're black, but that doesn't mean you're African. And that also deals with white people because a lot of white people don't. It implies that they're Anglo, like they're Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, yada yada, a WASP, and that's not the case. A lot of white, like when we think of Muslim, we think of brown turbans. But a lot of Southern Russians, which are white, are Muslim.
Yeah.
A lot of
And Asian.
and Asian, and a lot of the Balkans are Muslim, but they're predominantly white. When we don't focus on the specifics of something, it's easier for them to generalize it and then demonize any kind of criticism of that vast thing. Because a lot of people that like to bring up how white people were oppressed is because Italians were oppressed and how
the
Irish people were
Irish.
oppressed.
Yeah.
But to your point,
And like they're not
That guy knows.
they're not wrong because
problematic.
in the South, one of the second largest groups to be lynched were Italians, Italian immigrants. I think one of the largest KKK riots, where they actually tried to overthrow the state government, was over the federal government telling them not to lynch a bunch of Italians.
What a bunch of assholes. the
Yeah,
government is.
and that's one of the
Hey,
sad.
stop killing people.
Yeah.
Unless you're
No,
a cop.
I don't want to.
Unless you're a cop, stop killing
What
people.
if
to your
black.
point though, like you're right again. It's such a targeted discussion instead of a human discussion that it almost makes a very small percentage outraged instead of most of the fucking percentage outraged.
Yeah,
It's
and-
happening to all of us, not just those little people over there.
Yeah,
Bullshit.
and so I think on this we have to be very specific and we have to be very not nuanced, but tell them to go fuck themselves if they want to try and detract from the fact that people are being killed, not just a specific group of people. Another good case is that they will oftentimes bring up black Hebrews who are anti-Semitic and are very racist, and use that as justification to not support Black Lives Matter. They will also use the Jewish Defense League, which is also racist, and use that to support anti-Semitism. They will use...
You can find a reason to detract from the overall if you're looking hard enough for it.
Yeah,
But none of that
and-
shit, like... People are so short-sighted that they can't understand that these small factions don't represent the majority of the people that are supporting any movement.
And one of the other funny things is that we like to also demonify ethnicities for past, like Germans for Nazis and shit like that. And then we then create that kind of stigma against that minority. This will probably surprise you. A lot of South America has a very large Nazi presence because of people going in. I can actually show you guys pictures of Mexican Nazis who are just like, we need white people out of here.
Oh, yeah.
And so I remember
In
growing
South
up.
Africa?
Yeah,
South
South
America.
America.
Oh, South America.
Yeah.
But there's also South African Nazis.
Yeah.
There's also South African Nazis. I can tell you
I
about
mean,
that too.
Nazi propaganda
There's
is getting
Nazis
huge in
everywhere
like
for every
Japan or
color
Korea
of the rainbow.
too. Just
And
because it's a
so,
weird counterculture thing there.
Yeah, and there's also the stigma that minorities can't be racist, but then when they are and they're vocal about it, they can then say, "Oh, this is justification for this. This is justification for that," and that's also fucked up.
Shout out to Deshaun Jackson. That was a
Like-
bad week for him.
Anti-blackness is rooted in almost absolutely everything. Like in the Hispanic and Latinx community, anti-blackness is heavy. Like you do not want to bring home like a black man as like your significant other, and like there's the stereotypes obviously that you've heard about. And
Black
it's
people
just
have big
like
dicks. That one.
and it's-
Jake's just trying to humble brag over here. Don't listen to him.
But
And so, like, the thing I'm glad about the Sunflower Coalition is that we advocate for everyone. And because, yeah, like, anti-blackness is rooted everywhere. Like, even in, like, communities of, like, minorities and, like, LGBTQIA plus communities as well. Like, it's everywhere. And, like, you know.
even black people like oppress black people.
You should not say that, Seth. You are not in that kind of...
Yeah, Seth, you shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
Whoever said that.
You are
Which
the
one,
whitest
Seth?
one here. You do got red hair, so. No offense.
Yeah, but it's just that like there's always going to be anti something like LGBTQIA plus is heavily embedded in like Latino communities as well, and that's why like we need to take that stance of helping everyone. That's why we're like a human rights group, because like as you kind of mentioned before, if we focus solely on like one group of individuals, someone's gonna have a problem with it, and like that shouldn't be kind of like the focus of things anyway in the first place. Like helping all groups of people is very important. Poor white people, even though you know they're white, their lives still matter. Like
And honestly, even calling yourself a human rights group, you're going to get hate.
yeah,
So
from my
don't focus on
rights
that.
group.
Don't focus on that at
you
all.
care about
because
people?
you can't.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well,
you're-
all species matter.
But at least start thinking about the positioning and not just going, pigeonhole.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I mean,
It's
it's
fucking smart.
I like that you're generalizing it as we're a human coalition. I want to. You're gonna get hate no matter what.
For being
Yeah.
So be
humanists.
prepared for that, and don't let that.
Don't let it break you down.
Don't even fucking entertain it, honestly. Because
Yep.
I mean,
Keep moving.
even if you were formerly a Black Lives Matter movement, fuck them if they detract from it. Like we were talking about before, how your friend is really good at being that middleman. Like I got a Black Lives Matter mask on order right now. When I wear it out in public and somebody tries to stop me, I'm gonna go, I don't give a fuck about your opinion, and keep walking. Because I don't give a fuck about their opinion. Unless somebody's giving me the fist, then it's, hey, cool. And I'm still gonna keep walking. But I don't want to hear your opinion if you detract from it. I don't care.
Yep.
Because you're wrong. It's just flat out, you're wrong. There is a very big systematic problem with black people in this country. And if you can't get on the Black Lives Matter train, get the fuck out of the way. It's as simple as that. And that's how, to me, even as a humanist organization, which I think is the right way to go, you still got to have that mentality, because there are going to be people that are going to come up with some stupid fucking argument to trying to distract you from it. You know? Yeah, it's going to be those people that hate the
lizards are in
reptilians.
charge.
Fucking Alex
Have you
Jones
seen
makes his
those
comeback.
videos though of like Obama's eyes like changing into like lizard eyes? It's absolutely ridiculous.
I hate it. I have so many people try to talk to me about conspiracy theories. I got the tattoos and the man bun, and people think I'm into that shit all the time. And I'm just like, dude, I don't fucking care. And I think you're less intelligent for having those kind of conspiracy
And it's
theories.
weird though, like yeah, when you try to become intersectional, and you advocate for a broad array of things, all of a sudden you get called colorless by the people who are supposedly on your side. They're like, oh, you're including other people in your group. You must be silencing black voices, and it's like, well, no,
Yeah.
these are systemic. Like that's the thing about systemic problems. So they affect all of us. Maybe trying to address something for all of us is a way to address things for individuals as well. And that's always
There are some things that are going to be specific to certain communities, yes.
Yeah.
But if we don't fix the whole, we can't even get started on those specifics.
It's like policing, policing is one of the things that just catches a huge net of people. Poverty as well, education, it's like, and I mean, that's what we're doing. So it's like, I mean, we're addressing policing. Obviously, there's going to be a wide net to have to cast here. If you're going to be talking about police violence, that affects anyone who's making under this certain amount of income.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's
which is the majority of people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, have y'all seen the breakdown of like why the police will never be in favor of just like the average working class person? Because when you have a system that's created off of one class exploiting the other, you create then a state that has to maintain the order, which is something that people like to throw around, like, oh, you gotta keep the order, you know. But yeah, the order is exploitation.
Yeah.
In order to defend that, you have to make laws, and you have to have people to defend those laws, and that's the police. So just at face, right, like just like as a systematic understanding of the police is that they were created to be inherently antagonistic to the working class, which includes people of color, specifically people of color.
They were specifically started to antagonize people of color.
Yeah.
They were slave catchers.
Yeah.
That's where the police originated.
And if you look at like police in other countries too, like in France and in England, they weren't created as a crime force. They were created as crowd control. And that's really apparent nowadays when you see them like attacking protesters. Right? The police are not meant to uphold the law. The police are not created to defend the average citizen. The police are created to defend the state and the interests of the state. And what is the interest of the state? To exploit the fuck out of you, to make the most money off of you. So why is it even a surprise that our courts are built off of making debt? You know, after like imprisoning people in debt, why is it a surprise that our police are going after our most vulnerable populations if that's the best way to turn a profit? You know, once you understand that, it's really easy to be like, obviously we need to change. Obviously we need to reimagine what police looks like.
So I think the point Santiago's trying to make here is somebody needs to rip up my t-shirt and let's fucking start throwing cocktails.
I don't know.
Not
I
to
don't
put
know
words in your mouth,
you
Santiago.
four, but I'm proud of all four of you.
Yes.
Good shit.
Thank you guys. Thank you
So
guys.
before
for
we
being
wrap
on.
up, you guys want to plug your Facebook, your
anything.
whatever?
Oh yeah,
Sunflower
at some
Coalition.
point we got to get a TikTok if that doesn't get banned.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Considering like banning TikTok in the US. I don't think that's
Don't.
Chinese
Yeah.
state media.
Yeah,
Go get a
no,
TikTok.
it's the Sunflower Coalition on Facebook and the Sunflower Coalition also on Instagram.
And you probably said it earlier, but is your Discord server like just?
Our
Do
Discord
you guys have a
server-
public Discord server?
We don't have a public Discord. The Discord server is for members only, and we keep a pretty tight lock on that because
Oh,
you know,
so you're like
you don't want
you're like
anybody
the-
infiltrating it.
yeah, because obviously there's information too that we are collecting that we just have to keep close to us, you know, to make sure that you know, and obviously private information too. Like none of us want to get doxxed and specifically targeted, which is why. You know, we don't name off most of our members unless they've already been out in the public eye, you know, at the commission meetings. Like the vast network of people that we already have, most of them are, you know,
Behind the scenes.
they're behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and we prefer to keep it that way just for their basic security. Which yesterday somebody commented on our Facebook. They sent us a message. They were like, "Oh, you guys don't give out names. The Ku Klux Klan doesn't give out names. Sounds like you're just another hate group." And we were like, "All right, you
Like
know."
specifically, like
my
that's
God.
the main.
Those are the
similarity
only
between
two
us.
people that don't give out names.
Yeah. It's like, all right, you know, cool, I guess, fine.
So Sunflower Coalition on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, the Sunflower Coalition.
The
Yeah.
my bad. The
It's very important.
the Sunflower Coalition.
The superlative coalition. If there's any other sunflower coalition out there, we'll sue you. Trademark. Oh yeah,
Oh, you
but
guys
we
have
haven't
Twitter?
posted anything on the Twitter. I don't want to plug.
Yeah,
our
we're
Twitter.
so
yeah,
we're so bad about
we're
that.
the same way. I tell the president to fuck you every day, and that's basically all we do on our.
Yeah,
our
follow
Twitter.
us on Twitter, Broke Dude Podcast.
Yeah, at
Or the
Broke Dude
Dude
Pod. I don't fucking know. I
It's
just
just
tell
Broke
the
Dude.
president to fuck himself every day. So
This
there it
the
is,
quality
ladies and
contact
gentlemen.
I want to see.
Episode 157 is in the books. Thank you guys for joining us. It was great talking to all of you. For Jed,
Chris.
Jake,
Blake.
yell it.
Blake.
There it is.
Next episode, we actually are going to do the
Yes.
fucking Masters of the Universe review. So we'll see you then.
Unless James Baldwin calls.
God damn it,
Sir
Jake.
James Baldwin.